The tires of my old Ford crunch over the gravel as I pull into the driveway of our summer house. The sign above the gate still reads Peace Haven, a bitter irony given the chaos that has recently invaded my life. The once comforting sight of our quaint cottage, now dusted with a layer of winter snow, no longer brings a smile to my face. Instead, it fills me with a mix of dread and determination. I step out of the car, my breath visible in the cold air, and head toward the front door. As I walk, the memories flood back, summer spent lounging on the porch, the scent of fresh pine mingling with the aroma of barbecued burgers, the sound of my wife, Lydia's, laughter. How long has it been since I heard her laugh like that? How long since I truly felt connected to her? The answer, I fear, lies within these walls. Lydia started making solo trips to the cottage a few months ago, citing the need to clean or take a break from her hectic schedule. At first, I didn't question it. After all, she worked hard as a marketing executive and deserved a break. But the frequency of her visits and the way she seemed distant even when we were together at home began to gnaw at me. Then there were the whispers, the suspicious looks from our neighbors, and finally, the undeniable clues, a second phone, secretive texts, and unexplained absences. I had to know the truth. So here I am, standing at the threshold of what was once our sanctuary, with a sinking feeling in my gut and a resolve to uncover whatever is hidden behind that door. I unlock the door and step inside. The cottage is eerily quiet, the kind of silence that presses against your ears. I move through the living room, noting the dust settling on the furniture. Clearly, Lydia hasn't been using this place for its supposed purpose of cleaning and resting. As I make my way to the kitchen, my heart pounds in my chest. What am I expecting to find? Evidence of her infidelity? Proof that my suspicions are nothing more than paranoia? I reach for the door to the basement, the one place I haven't checked. Lydia always kept it locked, claiming it was too damp and musty to be of any use. Today, the lock is missing. I push the door open and descend the creaky stairs. The basement is dimly lit, and the smell of mildew is overwhelming. As my eyes adjust to the gloom, I notice something that sends a chill down my spine. Scattered across the floor are remnants of a wild party, empty bottles, discarded clothing, and what looks like a makeshift bed. Jesus, Lydia, I mutter under my breath. A sound from upstairs startles me. I freeze, my mind racing. Is she here now? My heart hammers as I creep back up the stairs, straining to hear any movement. There's nothing but the howl of the wind outside. Then I see it. From the living room window, I catch a glimpse of shadows moving inside the cottage next door. Curiosity piqued, I move closer, peering through the curtains. What I see makes my blood run cold. Through the frosty glass, I see Lydia, but she's not alone. A group of people, at least 15, are gathered in our neighbor's living room. The scene is a surreal nightmare, Lydia in the center of a tangled mass of bodies, laughing and engaging in acts that make my stomach churn. This is not the woman I married, the woman I thought I knew. Anger, betrayal, and a burning need for revenge surge through me. How could she? And in our cottage, our supposed haven? I step back from the window, my mind racing. She has desecrated our home, shattered our bond, and now she must face the consequences. But how? What kind of revenge could match the depth of this betrayal? I take a deep breath and head back to the car, the cold air stinging my face. I need a plan, something that will ensure she never forgets this betrayal. As I drive back to the city, ideas swirl in my head, each more satisfying and devious than the last. When I finally reach home, I know what I must do. Lydia's deceit has set the stage for a reckoning, and I intend to deliver it. The cottage may have been our shared sanctuary once, but soon, it will be mine alone. And Lydia will learn that some betrayals come with a price far higher than she could have ever imagined. The morning after my chilling discovery, I sit at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of coffee and staring at Lydia's empty seat. Her betrayal plays on a loop in my mind, each replay intensifying my resolve. She's still at the cottage, probably unaware that I know her secret. A loud knock on the door startles me from my thoughts. I open it to find my best friend, Mark, standing there with a concerned look on his face. Best friend, Mark, and you look like you've seen a ghost, he says, stepping inside and shrugging off his coat. Something like that, I mutter, closing the door behind him. What's going on? Mark asks, sitting across from me. You sounded urgent on the phone. I take a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. Mark has been my friend since college, and if there's anyone I can trust, it's him. It's Lydia. She's been cheating on me. Mark's eyes widen. What? Are you sure? I nod and recount the events of the previous night, including the sordid scene I witnessed at the neighbor's cottage. By the time I finish, Mark looks as stunned as I felt. Man, I'm sorry. That's rough, he says, shaking his head. What are you going to do? That's why I called you, I reply. I need your help. Mark leans back, crossing his arms. Help with what? Revenge, I say, my voice cold and firm. I want to make her pay for what she's done. Mark's eyes narrow. Are you sure about this? Revenge can be a slippery slope. She humiliated me, Mark. In our own cottage. I can't just let this go. After a long pause, Mark nods. Okay. What's the plan? I need to gather some evidence. Something undeniable that I can use against her, I explain. And then, I'm going to make sure she regrets ever crossing me. Mark scratches his chin. All right. How do we start? We start by going back to the cottage. Tonight. I need to catch her in the act, get some photos, videos, anything that proves what she's been doing. Mark nods again, determination settling in his eyes. I'm in. Let's do this. As night falls, we make our way back to the cottage. Mark drives while I sit in the passenger seat, going over the plan. We've brought along a couple of cameras, including a night vision one, to capture everything without being seen. We park a little way down the road and approach the cottage on foot. The cold air bites at our faces as we move through the shadows, careful not to make any noise. As we get closer, I see the flickering light through the windows. They're inside. Mark sets up the cameras in strategic positions while I keep watch. I can hear muffled laughter and music coming from within, the sounds of a party in full swing. My stomach churns with a mix of anger and anticipation. Once the cameras are in place, Mark and I find a hiding spot nearby where we can monitor the feed. The night vision cameras work perfectly, capturing everything in eerie green detail. Lydia is there, just as I expected, along with several others, engaged in various acts of debauchery. Jesus, Mark whispers, his eyes glued to the screen. You weren't kidding. I wish I were, I reply, my voice tight. We stay there for hours, recording everything. By the time the party begins to wind down, we have more than enough evidence. My mind races with possibilities, each more vindictive than the last. As the guests start to leave, Mark and I slip away, careful to remain unseen. We make it back to the car without incident and drive away in silence, the weight of what we've witnessed pressing down on us. The next morning, I sit at my desk, reviewing the footage. Every time I see Lydia's face, a fresh wave of anger crashes over me. How could she? How could she throw away everything we had for this? A knock on the door interrupts my thoughts. It's my neighbor, Susan, a kind woman in her 50s who's always been like a second mother to me. Hi, Tom, she says, giving me a concerned look. I heard you were back. Is everything all right? Not really, I admit, stepping aside to let her in. Susan sits on the couch, her brow furrowed. What's going on? I take a deep breath and tell her everything, from Lydia's solo trips to the cottage to the shocking events of the previous night. Susan listens quietly, her expression growing more horrified with each passing moment. Oh, Tom, she says when I finish. I had no idea. That's awful. I don't know what to do, Susan, I confess. I want to make her pay, but I don't know where to start. Susan thinks for a moment, then nods. You need to confront her, Tom. Show her the evidence and let her know you're not going to stand for this. And then, you need to figure out what you want. Do you want to try to save your marriage, or is it time to move on? Her words hit me hard. Confronting Lydia is something I've been avoiding, but she's right. I can't let this fester any longer. Thanks, Susan, I say, feeling a surge of determination. You're right. I need to face her. Susan gives me a reassuring smile. You're a good man, Tom. You'll get through this. After she leaves, I sit back at my desk, staring at the incriminating footage. The time for action has come. Tonight, I will confront Lydia and show her the evidence. She will see the depth of her betrayal and understand that I am not a man to be trifled with. The cottage may have been our shared sanctuary once, but soon, it will be mine alone. And Lydia will learn that some betrayals come with a price far higher than she could have ever imagined. The sun sets behind a curtain of dark clouds, casting long shadows across our living room. I sit at the table, staring at the clock, each tick amplifying my resolve. Lydia is due back any minute, and tonight, everything changes. The front door creaks open, and Lydia steps inside, her face flushed from the cold. She sets down her bag and smiles at me, but there's something off, a falseness in her expression that I've come to recognize. Hey, Tom, she says, shrugging off her coat. How was your day? I force a smile. Fine. We need to talk. Lydia's smile falters. Sure, what's up? Sit down, I say, gesturing to the chair opposite me. She hesitates, then complies, a flicker of apprehension in her eyes. I reach for the laptop on the table and open it, queuing up the footage from the previous night. Tom, what's going on? Lydia asks, her voice uneasy. I look her straight in the eye. I know about the cottage. I know what you've been doing. Her eyes widen, and she starts to speak, but I hold up a hand. Watch. I hit play, and the room fills with the damning evidence, the party, the people, her betrayal in full display. Lydia's face goes pale, her hand flying to her mouth. Oh my God, Tom, I can explain, she stammers, tears welling up in her eyes. Explain? I snap, my voice rising. Explain how you thought it was okay to turn our home into a den of infidelity. Explain how you thought you could lie to me over and over again. Please, Tom, it's not what you think, she pleads, reaching for my hand. I pull away, disgusted. Then what is it, Lydia? Because it looks pretty clear to me. I slam the laptop shut and stand, pacing the room to release the anger coursing through me. I trusted you. I loved you. And this is how you repay me? She breaks down, sobbing. I'm so sorry, Tom. It was a mistake. I never meant for it to go this far. A mistake? I scoff. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary or burning dinner. This is a betrayal. The room is silent except for Lydia's sobs. I watch her, a mix of anger and sadness swirling within me. I don't know if I can ever forgive you, Lydia. But I do know that things will never be the same. What are you going to do? She asks, her voice small and broken. I'm going to take the cottage, I say firmly. You won't step foot in it again. It's mine now. Lydia's eyes widen. But, Tom. No buts. You've made your bed, Lydia. Now lie in it. She nods, defeated, and I feel a pang of guilt. Despite everything, part of me still loves her, still wants to protect her. But I push that feeling aside. This is about more than love. It's about respect and trust, both of which she shattered. I'm going to pack a bag, she whispers, standing up. I'll stay with my sister for a while. I nod, unable to look at her. She heads upstairs, and I collapse onto the couch, burying my face in my hands. The reality of the situation crashes over me, leaving me feeling hollow and lost. The next few days pass in a blur. Lydia moved out, taking only the essentials, and I'm left alone in a house that feels foreign without her. Mark checks in on me regularly, his presence a small comfort in the midst of the storm. One evening, as I'm nursing a drink and staring at the flickering flames in the fireplace, there's a knock at the door. I open it to find Susan standing there, a casserole dish in her hands. "I thought you could use a good meal," she says, offering a sympathetic smile. "Thanks, Susan," I reply, stepping aside to let her in. We sit in the kitchen, and she serves the casserole, the warm, cheesy smell filling the room. For a moment, the simple act of sharing a meal brings a semblance of normalcy. "How are you holding up?" she asks, her eyes full of concern. "Honestly, I don't know," I admit. Some days are better than others. Today is not great. Susan reaches across the table and squeezes my hand. "It'll get better, Tom." I know it doesn't seem like it now, but it will. "I hope so," I say, sighing. It's just hard to believe everything fell apart so quickly. "You're strong, Tom. You'll get through this. And remember, you're not alone. You have friends who care about you." I nod, grateful for her kindness. After Susan leaves, I sit by the fireplace again, the warmth of the flames soothing my troubled mind. As I stare into the fire, a plan begins to form. I've taken the cottage, but that's not enough. I need to rebuild, to turn this place into something new, something that's mine alone. A place where I can heal and move forward. The next morning, I head to the cottage, determination fueling my steps. It's time to reclaim what's mine, to transform the site of betrayal into a sanctuary of strength and renewal. Over the following weeks, I throw myself into the project. I clean, repair, and renovate, pouring my energy into every nail and brushstroke. Mark helps when he can, and even Susan stops by with meals and encouragement. The cottage slowly transforms from a place of pain to a symbol of resilience. One day, as I'm working on the porch, I hear a car pull up. I turn to see Lydia stepping out, her face a mix of hope and trepidation. She approaches slowly, her eyes scanning the changes I've made. "Tom," she says softly. "Can we talk?" I set down my tools and face her. "What is it, Lydia?" "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she begins, her voice trembling. "I know I've hurt you deeply, and I don't expect you to forgive me. But I wanted to apologize again and let you know I'm seeking help. I've started seeing a therapist to understand why I did what I did. I study her, searching for any signs of deceit. But all I see is genuine remorse." "That's good, Lydia. I hope it helps." She nods, tears brimming in her eyes. "I hope so too. I just wanted you to know that I'm trying to be better." "Thank you for telling me," I say, my voice softening. "I appreciate it." She hesitates, then steps closer. "Is there any chance we could start over? Not as a couple, but as friends?" I consider her words, the sincerity in her eyes. "Maybe, in time. But right now, I need to focus on myself." "I understand," she whispers. "Take care, Tom." As she turns to leave, I feel a sense of closure. The wounds are still there, but they're starting to heal. And for the first time in a long while, I feel a glimmer of hope for the future. The cottage is mine now, a place where I can rebuild and rediscover myself. And with each passing day, I'm one step closer to finding peace. The cottage stands proud against the backdrop of spring, its exterior newly painted and the garden blooming with vibrant flowers. The changes are more than cosmetic, they represent a fresh start, a new chapter in my life. As I finish planting the last of the marigolds, I hear the crunch of gravel under tires. I look up to see Mark's car pulling into the driveway. "Hey, Tom," he calls out, stepping out of the car. "The place looks fantastic." "Thanks, Mark," I reply, wiping the sweat from my brow. "It's coming together." Mark walks over and claps a hand on my shoulder. "I've got something for you." He reaches into his pocket and pulls out an envelope. "What's this?" I ask, taking it from him. "Open it," he says with a grin. I tear open the envelope and pull out a set of keys and a piece of paper. A boat? I read aloud, incredulous. You got me a boat? Mark laughs. It's not just any boat. It's a project boat. I figured since you've done such an amazing job with the cottage, you might enjoy fixing up something else. I'm touched by the gesture. Thanks, Mark. This means a lot. He nods, his expression turning serious. There's something else, Tom. I've been doing some digging into Lydia's activities. I didn't want to tell you until I was sure, but there's more to the story. I feel a chill run down my spine. What do you mean? Let's go inside, he suggests. This isn't something we should discuss out here. We head into the cottage, and I make us some coffee while Mark pulls out a file from his bag. He lays it on the table and opens it, revealing photos, documents, and what looks like a list of names. What is all this? I ask, my curiosity piqued. Mark takes a deep breath. It turns out that the parties Lydia was involved in weren't just casual affairs. There's an entire network behind it, a sort of secret society. They're into some pretty shady stuff, Tom. Drugs, blackmail, you name it. My mind races as I process this information. Are you saying Lydia was involved in all of that? I'm afraid so, Mark says. And it gets worse. Some of the people she was involved with have dangerous connections. I think they might be using the cottage for more than just parties. The realization hits me like a punch to the gut. So that's why she was so insistent on coming here alone. It wasn't just about the affair, she was involved in something much bigger. Mark nods. I've been in touch with a detective friend of mine. He's agreed to look into it, but we need to be careful. If these people find out we're onto them, they won't hesitate to retaliate. Just then, there's a loud bang from outside, followed by the sound of shattering glass. Mark and I exchange a glance, and he motions for me to stay back as he cautiously moves toward the front door. Stay here, he whispers, his eyes scanning the room for anything that could be used as a weapon. I grab a heavy candlestick from the mantel and follow him despite his warning. As we reach the front of the house, we see a group of men standing by Mark's car, their faces obscured by hoods. One of them steps forward, a malicious grin spreading across his face. Mark Turner and Tom Reynolds, he calls out. We need to have a little chat. What do you want? Mark demands, his voice steady despite the tension. The man's grin widens. You've been sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. Time to pay the price. Before we can react, the men rush us. Mark swings a punch, connecting with the leader's jaw, while I fend off another attacker with the candlestick. The fight is chaotic, brutal. I manage to knock one of them out, but not before another lands a solid blow to my ribs, sending me crashing to the ground. Mark is holding his own, but it's clear we're outnumbered. Just as things seem dire, the sound of sirens pierces the air. The attackers scatter, disappearing into the woods as police cars pull into the driveway. Are you guys okay? An officer shouts as he runs toward us. We're fine, Mark replies, helping me to my feet. But they're part of a bigger operation. You need to catch them. The police take our statements and assure us they'll investigate further. As they drive off, Mark and I sit on the porch, catching our breath. Thanks for having my back, I say, wincing from the pain in my side. Anytime, Mark replies. But we're not out of the woods yet. We need to figure out how deep this goes and how to stop them. Over the next few days, Mark's detective friend, Detective Harris, delves into the case. He uncovers more connections, linking the network to various criminal activities. Lydia's involvement is undeniable, but she's just a pawn in a much larger game. One evening, as I'm reviewing the latest findings with Mark and Detective Harris, there's a knock at the door. I open it to find Lydia standing there, her face drawn and eyes filled with fear. Tom, please, let me in, she begs. I need your help. Why should I help you? I ask, anger and betrayal boiling inside me. Because they're after me too, she says, tears streaming down her face. I didn't know what I was getting into. They're dangerous, Tom. Please, I have nowhere else to go. I look at Mark and Harris, who nod subtly. We step aside and let her in. She collapses onto the couch, sobbing. I'm so sorry, she cries. I never meant for any of this to happen. I was just trying to escape my life, and they took advantage of me. We need to know everything, Harris says, his tone firm but gentle. If we're going to protect you and bring them down, you have to tell us everything you know. Lydia nods, wiping her tears. I'll tell you everything. Just please, help me. As Lydia begins to recount her involvement, we piece together the final parts of the puzzle. The network is vast, but with her information, we have a chance to dismantle it. Over the following weeks, we work tirelessly with the police, gathering evidence and planning a sting operation. The night of the raid, I stand with Mark and Harris, watching as the police move in, arresting key members of the network. Lydia, now under witness protection, is a shadow of her former self. The betrayal still stings, but I see the remorse in her eyes. As the network crumbles, I feel a sense of closure. The cottage, once a symbol of pain and betrayal, is now a beacon of hope and resilience. It stands as a testament to my strength and the unwavering support of my friends. As I sit on the porch, watching the sun set over the horizon, I know that the future is uncertain, but I'm ready to face it head on. The past may have scarred me, but it has also made me stronger. And with every sunrise, I'm reminded that new beginnings are always possible.